discuss speed bumps, speed humps, or whatever y'all like to call it. What this is, I'll remind everybody, this is a public hearing. Everybody will get to speak. And I have a list of 6 names on this list will get to speak. And if anybody, before I start, you can add your name to this list to speak. All right, I'm gonna call this meeting to order for 7 p.m. at the 180 Maple Street on March the 9th. Please call the roll.
Chip Clark.
Here.
Roger Lofton.
Here.
Tim Rhodes.
Here.
Donna Ross.
Here.
Jimmy White.
Here.
Gabe Williams.
Here.
Sandra Wood. Here.
All right, we'll remind everybody this is a public hearing, there won't be any voting, and everybody can come forward to speak. Donna has a brief statement she'd like to make.
I just want to say thank you all for everybody being here tonight. I've seen some social media posts that have kind of threw my name out there, and if you know, over the summer and after the most recent election here, the voters have continually reached out to me about these speed bumps. I asked the mayor to bring this before the board. My personal feelings on speed bumps have been known for years. I don't like speed bumps. I ran for office to be a voice for all the people. I believe our American process is based on our elected officials representing people that they elect. And so, my personal feelings, if a vote is brought before this board, will be placed aside. I will not waver on voting the will of the majority of the people and the safety for our community. And so, again, thank you all for being here. And Mayor, thank you for allowing me to make that statement.
All righty. The first gentleman on the docket tonight is Jimmy Brack. Just state your name for the record and address.
My name's Jeremiah Bryan at 280 Eastern Shores Drive. Here this evening in support of the speed bumps. I was here last time we had this meeting to add them because it was voted on due to the concerns of the safety of the kids in our neighborhood. I stated last time, and I still have, I got 3 kids at home that like to go outside and play. We live real close to the very first speed bump there in Eastern Shores. We've noticed a dramatic decrease in speed coming through the neighborhood. Granted, kids shouldn't be playing in the road, but at the same time, our kids shouldn't be fearful of having to go out and have somebody speeding through the neighborhood. And as I said, over the span of what's it been, 2-3 years since they've been put in, we have noticed a dramatic decrease in it. I am of the belief that the speed bumps don't go far enough. I think there should be more speed bumps because we live right by that hill. So with only being 2 speed bumps in our neighborhood so far apart, yes, we do pick up speed in between them. I know that is a concern of some people. That's why last time I advocated for more speed bumps in the neighborhood. I can't talk about Old Huntington or the Beasley area or really the Harbor Drive, but it seems to me that the issue is we don't like speed bumps, let's get rid of them, but there is no solid reason as to why. They are not a safety issue. Only in the opposite. They are decreasing speed, which is making it safer. They're not a safety issue for vehicles. Speed bumps are designed to slow traffic down. If you slow down and go over them slow, there is no damage to your vehicle or to anything. That's what the speed bump is designed for. So, I personally don't think the ones on Old Huntington are aggressive enough. But the ones in our neighborhood do slow the traffic down. I personally would like to see more. I know that everybody, most of y'all were here last time, if not on the committee here. Y'all were part of the community, and we did vote on this, and the vote passed. And the vote passed for a reason, and the reason being the children of the neighborhood. Taking away the speed bumps is going to be a detriment to the children of the neighborhood, and a detriment to the taxpayer of this city. So we're talking about something that we passed to put in for safety, and we're talking about getting rid of them at a cost of who knows what, probably around a couple $1,000 a piece. Whereas that money could be taken and utilized to fix some of the potholes that we drove over coming to this meeting. So the kids of our neighborhood need to remain safe, and speed bumps do that. And if the vote is put forward to either get rid of or add more, I'm in favor of adding more. If we're going to waste the money We do not need to spend taxpayer money on getting rid of speed bumps that have been proven to decrease the speeding in the neighborhoods and keep the children safe. There's no point to it. That's kind of all I've got. Hopefully some other people have some actual statistics, but this is kind of a feeling because I see it every day. I've got cameras in my house. I can sit and watch traffic go by. So I've seen it firsthand. I know that other people have seen it firsthand. But if your complaint is, I have to slow down when I'm on my way to town, that's not a valid argument to get rid of something that keeps children in the neighborhood safe. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Tasha Lofton.
Natasha Walton, 7035 Old Huntington. I am against the speed bumps out in Old Huntington. I'm not gonna talk about Eastern Shore, that's a neighborhood. Old Huntington is not a neighborhood, it's an emergency access road that accesses multiple other neighborhoods. I mean, if we're gonna start putting them on every emergency access road, it's just right down the middle of town, it don't make no sense. There's no kids playing on Old Huntington Road, it's not a neighborhood again. I am a healthcare professional, and I can tell you that there are multiple ambulances come down through there. There are hundreds of houses that are affected, just as a feeder straight from Old Huntington. And if I'm in the back of the ambulance and I'm trying to intubate somebody, put an IV in, put a chest tube in, I'm trying to get them in the hospital, I don't want to have to be stopping to go over speed bumps to do that, not to mention the safety. It's a liability for the city. EMS director has already told the board that it is a liability, it's a safety issue for that street. Again, the neighborhoods, great, love them, do whatever you need to do. Everybody knows that this is not a neighborhood street. Again, it feeds multiple hundreds of homes. The other thing is, I know there's some concerns from farmers and other businesses. There's other ways to slow traffic down besides affecting, possible bad patient outcomes. And I don't see why there's any other discussion about it.
Ms. Bryant.
Good evening, Anastasia Bryant, I'm at 280 Eastern Shores. I do have some statistics because I was trying to take the emotion out of the problem. I am on Mother Creek, we live by neighbors that have four, they're our friends, they go to each other pretty often. All kids are involved in sports and outdoor sports of sorts, so we are outside a lot. And the reason why we were pro speed bumps in the first place is because there is an issue of speeding. And Ms. Donna, I really want to acknowledge you because that was really kind of you and very thoughtful when you got the kids at play sign for us. You didn't have to do that. That was a personal gift from you, and I really appreciate that. But I do want to say that, thankfully, because we have speed bumps, we didn't have to use it. So I did get a hold of the speed study, which I'll be happy to provide. The one that was done about a year before the speed bumps were installed, if I understand correctly, it was, it only read the traffic one way. So and I said that, I was told that I can double it safely. So it was around the same amount of vehicles before the speed bumps were installed. It was over 500 speed violations. 2 months later, after it was installed, it was only 85. So that's a dramatic increase.
Is that per month? Is that per month?
That's per week. Yes. So it's around 4,500 vehicles going both ways. So like I said, before, over 500, around 530. After 85. And I have information I wanted to find out is around how much it's going to be to remove the speed bumps. Just as a taxpayer, not a mother. So as from what I was understood, a rough estimate to remove each speed bump is about $2,000. So just guessing, after us having that pretty big ice storm, I think there's a lot more potholes that need to repair instead of removing the speed bumps. That's all I got.
Thank
Just wanted to
Jeremy Johnson, 335 Eastern Shores Drive. I've been a resident there for several years now. I'd like to thank y'all for your time on this. To add to a few things that the previous speakers have spoke, you know, I only want to speak about Eastern Shores. We're a neighborhood. We're not a main, I don't consider us a main road. It is the way you get to a neighborhood, the backside, but we are still a neighborhood. As they spoke, we don't have small children anymore, but there are numerous small children now in the neighborhood that I see playing more since we've added them than there was before we put them in. You know, we paid for the research to get it done, get all of them put in. We paid to install them, and now if we, just as they said, we do something different, we're gonna pay to pull them up. The money as tight as budgets are these days could probably be used at a better place, you know, to pull up all the speed bumps in town. And then if someone gets hit or heaven forbid a child get hit, we're gonna do the same process we did to get them down the first time. I mean, everyone that voted to pull them up is gonna be more apt to vote to put them back down. So then we're doing a research study again at, I think, $2,000 each, is that right, Chief, close to it? Not sure. But if they say it is that, then we're gonna pay to do that again, plus put it down. And then when someone gets tired of it, we do the same circle over and over in the circles, it's a merry-go-round. Also, since I've lived on Eastern Shore, I know they've got two of Miss Old's mailboxes. The neighbor next to her, they took out one mailbox at least, hit it a second time, and those are brick mailboxes, not your post with just a wood post. They took out two light poles, almost took a pine tree that was about 18 inches diameter in front of my house down one night. That gentleman, I think, got fluid Vanderbilt. We'll have to do some research to see, but I think it's right. I know his famer bones outside of his living when he walked up across the street to check on it. And we was told originally, after the motion passed, that it took 60 to 67%, whatever that number is, they're relatively close, of the people that live on that street would have to vote to pull them up. Now, each household, in fairness, should get one vote. If I told my neighbors, if 60 or 67%, whatever that number is, in the motion that you guys passed, and they sign it per household to pull them up, that's America. It's just like someone spoke, that's America, it's great. We lost, it's okay. We just fight another day or work to get them put back down at another point in time. I don't believe there's enough votes on Eastern Shores to get them pulled up. Now, let me say, right in front of my house, please visit 335 Eastern Shores Drive, everybody. There is a speed bump directly in front of my house. I have a circle drive. Pull in my circle drive, pretend like you're gonna back out in the morning and pull over that speed bump every day, at least twice. It isn't my favorite thing to do, but I can tell you by sitting in my front yard that the speeds have really slowed down since we've done that. They really have. And a lot of times the people that are complaining don't live on our street. They don't have to sit there and watch cars when they turn, coming from the backside, floor it when they turn. And I have seen them, Chief would have better information on this if they stopped in the past before they put them down. I wouldn't be scared to say they got up to 55 miles an hour. And then they hit that curve by Miss Old's, and the next neighbor is why they can't make that curve, and they take out her mailbox, the light pole, and then what? To back up, a lot of mothers now I see walking with their young children in their strollers. What if they were out and they get hit? You know, it's not like the old days. When I was young, I'll never forget, Mr. Wilson, I just started driving, 1988, tell my age a little bit. He followed me home one day. I was speeding up the Skyline Drive like I should have been. He followed me home, took me by the shirt, walked up the door, knocked on the door, told my mom I was speeding. Not only did I get grounded, I got plenty of punishment. Well, we can't do that anymore. You know, we can't, the law, we can't do that anymore. You can't follow and chase someone down like we used to do when things were normal in this world and do that anymore. So what's our deterrent? Speed bump. You know, maybe a traffic camera to check the speed, and then you start moving the bills. Well, nobody wants that. That's an overstep more than a speed bump. So here we are. We're talking about speed bumps. You know, it's really sad, honestly, guys. And if we could get this passionate about some things we do in Lexington and use our political stock to get this much excitement other than speed bumps, imagine what we could do. But here we are. We call a special meeting for speed bumps. And I'm for them. It ain't my favorite thing. Please come to my driveway, turn around, see how you like it, but I will keep them there as long as we need to, forever, till I pass away. Best way it takes to help make the neighborhood good. And that's where I stand.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Jim Terry, I live at 26 Mulberry Lane in Eastern Shores. And so the statistics say that there seconds to 1 minute of oxygen deprivation to your brain, that equates to an event that could not be recoverable, not be recoverable from. And so your brain, for every second that it loses oxygen, loses 1.9 million neurons. And so, granted, your brain has about 86 billion in there. So that might be a small percentage, but a second or two, when you are in that event, well, you know, what if there was a kid that had, what if a kid had a bike wreck and hit their head in the backside of the neighborhood and was looking at a TBI? You know, those 2 seconds could be the difference between that person needing constant care for the rest of his life or maybe a possible recovery. You know, we have also, you know, we live on the lake, and for every 4 minutes that you're underwater is an unrecoverable event, most likely. There you're gonna have some sort of trauma that comes out of that. And so, I know that there are people that like them, people that don't like them. I spoke at the last one as well. I'm not for them, obviously, but I don't think that we did look at alternatives. I think that if you look at the traffic cameras that were in there, most of the people that are speeding through there, that's us. That's every one of us going through there at a high rate of speed. Should we be? Absolutely not. You know, I inherently, if I'm speeding and I see blue lights, or I see a cop on the side of the road, or I see even a camera that flashes at me, you know, that says, hey, your speed is 30 miles an hour and your speed limit is 10, I don't know, whatever the numbers are. I inherently let up. And so, not that everybody does, but I do. And I offered, at one point, I had Chief go out and get pricing on what we could get on state contract for those type of speed limit signs that are solar powered, that we could put in there to see if that was an alternative. That got shot down because of the cost. I don't know, I think they're about $12,000 or something like that, more now, I'm sure. But in that time, you know, that could have been an option that the board chose not to. They went with the low cost option and put the speed bumps in. So, you know, I'm in favor of those. I told Chief I'd be willing to sponsor one. I mean, if they're 12,000 or 15,000 or whatever, then I'm willing to sponsor one for my neighborhood, because I do believe that speed is a problem. You know, I've seen numerous accidents in the curves that they're talking about. I've seen the mailboxes knocked down and the telephone poles. You know, I've lived in Eastern Shores, you know, most of the time that I've lived as an adult here in Lexington. So, I understand that it is a problem, and I'm not denying anybody their right to speak about that. I just think it's a safety issue. Don't really care about the car. I mean, you know, if you go over slow enough, you're not gonna hurt the car probably. I just think it's a safety issue, and that ought to be considered. So, thank you.
Mr. Douglas.
Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't come down here expecting to talk, but when they said sign the sheet if you wanted to, if I was a lawyer, I'm gonna sign up. I'm the senior member of our community out there.
Can you please tell your name and address for the record, please?
I've been out there longer than maybe somebody's been born.
You know, he is.
They, bought a lot out there in '76. At the end of the road, I'm not on Eastern Shores Drive, I'm on Scenic Circle, but that was the end of it. I used to shoot turtles out there and, off of my deck. They were in the lake, 'cause you didn't live back there was nobody back there. I've I've seen our neighborhood develop some progress and some fine homes built. But the traffic issue has deteriorated. The speed bumps have helped, but it hasn't cured it. I kind of sympathize there, the more would be helpful. But we at least need the two that are out there, if we're just talking about Eastern Shore Drive, that are on there. Now, I've known that, like I said, I live on there, it's peaceful on my street, I wouldn't live on Eastern Shore Drive, it's dangerous. I've known there's a guy that runs up and down the street out there. I've done it for years, ever since I've been there. And it gets more dangerous every time I go out there. Even with the speed bumps, it's dangerous. We have a lot of traffic coming through that's not our neighbors. We have a lot of our neighbors are all moving around in through there too. One almost ran over me the other day. Now, I know it wasn't intentional, or at least I didn't think it was. But it scared me, and I think they were probably distracted driving, because they came up behind me. But the point is, it's dangerous. And I remind that inconvenience is not a consideration. We all have inconveniences in life. The safety of our neighborhood out there is the concern. I have a real concern for it. I think y'all have concerns for our community's safety. You adopted a policy dealing with this and delegated the public works director to kind of handle these. Instead of the board telling us where speed bumps are going to be. It's just like you selected the chief over there and you don't tell him who to arrest or who not to arrest. I hope you keep the concerns for safety in your mind when you consider this. And follow the directions of the Public Works Director. I appreciate y'all's consideration. Thank you.
Can I come up and? Jeremiah Brown is the first one to speak. The concern about having an emergency in Eastern Shores was actually addressed at the last meeting. I believe it was Ms. Ross brought it up. Asked the fire chief and I believe the ambulance if there would be an issue getting to and from the backside of Eastern Shores, and the answer was no. Because the fire truck is designed to go over a speed bump. I mean, so that issue was addressed. Okay, if there is an emergency that happens in the neighborhood, they can get to them. It was addressed in the last meeting, so that issue was squashed last time. There is no issue for the fire truck or the police or the ambulance or whoever to get back there. To my knowledge, from the last meeting when they all said, no, it's not an issue for us to get back there and go over speed bumps. So I just wanted to make that point known, because that way we got the opposite end of the spectrum of an argument that was made while we were up here. So, thank you.
Any member on the board have any questions or comment?
I'd like to have Chief Lees come up and maybe compare any information he has as to Eastern Shores and Old Lincoln before the traffic control was put in and today.
So Huntington Street, the proof has been, for being
crashes, right? That's one of the main, things that we're trying to prevent with speed humps, one of the countermeasures that the board is elected to institute. So when you look at 3 years worth of crash data in both locations, you can see that on Huntington Street in 2023, after the speed humps were installed, we had 2 crashes on Huntington Street.
Were either of those fatalities?
No, sir. 24, that number went to 5, and in 25, that number went back down to 4.
Any fatalities?
No fatalities, no injury corrections during that time. On Eastern Shores Drive, the implementation year for the speed humps was 2023. There were no crashes on Eastern Shores Drive in 2023. That number went up to 3 in 24 and to 4 in 25. And everybody who lives up there knows the area where you're dealing with on Eastern Shores Drive is the 2 curves, right? That's what we're talking about. Any other questions that I can
Same question, any fatalities?
No fatalities. No fatalities.
Injuries?
There was an injury crash on Eastern Shores during that 3-year time frame.
Just for public record, prior to 23, give us a comparison. Do you have any, have those
Those
numbers?
numbers were right in the 5 and 6 per year category.
So, reduced, but,
Reduced, the average speed of the roadway was dropped on Eastern Shores Drive down to like, I think the 85th percentile number was 33 miles per hour after installation. From 38.
And then, that was which one?
That was on Eastern Shores.
What about Old Huntington?
I can't give you an average speed out there. I know it dropped significantly, but we haven't done a follow-up traffic study out there in a few years. You remember, Casey, I don't remember us doing one in the last couple of years, but we did one immediately following on Eastern Shores.
Casey, were there any petitions that went through Public Works that were picked up for this neighborhood, for Eastern Shores? There was after we made the motion, the 67% to put them down and the 67% to take them up, were there any petitions from Public Works that were picked up for Eastern Shores?
there was, you put more down, right?
Oh, I don't know, pick them up to,
Either or.
No, no.
I did.
Miss Rogers says she picked them up.
I got
Not right here.
Nancy got one.
So you do have a petition that you picked up at Public Works,
Yes,
and you have signatures on that
Yes.
petition?
I've got 141 signatures.
Okay.
And we went out and counted houses today, we got 157 houses, but we're gonna get, probably say 165. So we got 141 names that won't put the speed bumps up.
How many of those are multiple names per household, do you know? Ms. Nancy,
What'd you say?
how many of those, you said you got 160 houses, and you got 144 signatures,
141 signatures.
141.
Sometimes that's the husband and the wife.
okay.
But we just have 157 houses out there.
I will,
Because I feel like something is not, and I may be wrong, but was a girl not paralyzed from Eastern Shores over and over speed limit?
No, that's incorrect. I don't think so. Yes, that was the rumor, but the speed humps played no role in that crash.
Question,
But that,
May. The 33 miles per hour, that it got reduced to,
Yes,
with the speed bumps, I assume that's an average speed for people slowing down for the speed bump.
that's the average speed of the
Slowing
roadway.
down to 10 mile an hour for the speed limit, for the speed bump rather, well, that gets factored in, the created part of the 33.
That's correct. That's right. That's the average speed of,
As
how many people there were on the roadway? I don't remember the numbers.
I will say this, I did, go last week, to Mr. Harden's house, the Kaiser's, and spent about 40 minutes with him, and as y'all will remember, he was a strong advocate for these speed bumps being placed on Old Huntington. And, he's like, the only thing these speed bumps are doing is penalizing the people that are driving the speed limit. And he said, I want you to sit here and watch with me. and we did for about 35, 40 minutes. The people that were running 60 and 70, they went right over them. It's 30-mile-per-hour speed limit down through there. The people that were trying to obey the speed limit laws, when they got to them, they would stop, and their cars were like, you could tell, like they were really struggling to go over them. And so, he's had tractor damage done, he truly told me, he said, they're not effective. And so his comment to me was that he wanted us to look at rumble strips, maybe prior to that entrance and exit of his property. He expressed to me that, he said, they're not doing me any good. And I sat there for 35, 40 minutes emotional with him. And people were flying over. I mean, they weren't even slowing down, they weren't even hitting the brakes. Brand new cars. And his comment was, and the people that are flying over are the people that live back in these subdivisions. He said, that's the problem. He said, whatever you do, please don't raise the speed limits, because if we give an inch, they'll take a mile. So if we put it at 40, they're gonna run 50. He said, if you keep it at 30 and they run 40, we can handle 40. I mean, his son has been hit by a vehicle and suffered a broken leg, by a vehicle while and they cross that road 10, 12 times a day trying to feed, so he's very aware of the traffic out there. But, he said, take them up, there's some other. So, as long as some other kind of measure is done, and of course he wants, speed enforcement. So,
Well, I can assure you that that's probably the number one complaint that I get as your chief to the police department is has a traffic nexus
Right.
somewhere in the neighborhood, okay? And without exception, in my 34 years of law enforcement experience, when you go in and do some enforcement work in the neighborhood, the people that we stop violating the speed laws are going to be people living in the neighborhood, without exception.
that's what it was for years ago.
It's been played a long time. So enforcement on Old Huntington continues to go on with speed bumps. I read the numbers the other day, or this morning rather, and in the last 2 years, I think we've executed well over 200 traffic stops out on Huntington Street in that 2-year window. So it's continuing to go on. It's going to take a combination of factors.
Did you pay the fines?
I can't tell you that, Mr. Jimmy. I don't know. I didn't dive into dispositions on cases, but I don't know about that. I know not every traffic stop results in a citation, obviously.
I mean, if the citation, did they pay the citation?
It's going to depend on.
You get enough of them, you quit driving.
You are correct. You are 100% correct.
That was Mr. Hart's comment. He said, if you think speed enforcement don't work, drive through Clarksburg.
There's never a lack of speeding.
Yes.
Mayor, could I address one thing about Mr. Rogers' petition, which he asked me to sign it, and I wouldn't sign it. And I don't think, but I went and looked at your policy that you have governing these things about removal. And it clearly states that 67% of the people that live on the street. You don't live on the street.
That's right.
I don't live on the street.
But I have to go
But
across the
that's what your policy that y'all have adopted concerning speed bumps said. So I'm just asking you to respect that, Mr. Ross.
Mr. Douglas, this hearing tonight is on emergency route speed cushions. It's not, this was brought up early on when this original policy was done. So this is an this is not for normal installation and removal. This is for emergency routes in the city.
That's addressed in your policy as well.
That's correct, and that's what brought it up,
And
was
that
because
is
they're
not
not
an
supposed to.
emergency route. Eastern Shore is not.
Okay.
Your policy says it's where access to hospitals and things like that.
Mr. Terry was talking about the time delay for brain injury, drowning. That's a subject.
But there's also a subject of the young kids in the neighborhood getting hit with a flying car. So they're both safe. And not only that, we want to be a town of growth. And I want to call my age out. I don't have youngsters at home anymore. But there are more people advocating for the speed bumps in our neighborhood that have young children that we want to stay in this town and live, not move out. Come on, folks, let's get it together.
Gordon, can I say something about all this? I'm gonna speak the truth. These speed bumps that are down are nothing but things that ain't fun.
You wasn't on the agenda.
Well, I wanna see if I can speak about the truth about this and let it come out like these kids and all this good stuff. That's fine. Y'all wanna hear the truth?
Shane used to be a captain of the fire department in Jackson, Tennessee, and he said that this is because of emergency, we do not need speed bumps. Tell them what you say.
I live on, Harbor Drive, Gene Smith, 32 years with Jackson Fire Department. We made medical runs, and like he said, the first 10 minutes of any emergency, heart attack, drowning, or whatever, is critical. If you don't get there in time, and you can't leave to get them to the hospital in the golden hour, they're gone. They're gone. 10 minutes, and they're gone. If they have a heart attack, CPR not started, they're brain dead. Drowning, same way.
But that goes back to, that was addressed at the last meeting. Like, we addressed that issue. You brought it up yourself, Ms. Ross. You brought it up to everybody asking these specific questions of, can an ambulance or fire truck get where it needs to be without being hindered? And the answer that was given by the fire chief and the ambulance was, yes, we will have no issues getting anywhere. This is not a valid argument to remove the speed bumps in our neighborhood. It's just not, because it was addressed.
I understand. We had, at the last meeting, there were EMS personnel here that also addressed that, Mr. Bryant. So I'm here to listen.
No, I know, I'm just saying, you did bring it up. It's yes. Like, this is a moot point, because it's been addressed.
I moved out over it.
So, there's no point to keep hammering this home, because it's not an issue.
And what did the EMS director tell you?
They said that, he said that they had, Old Huntington was the road he discussed.
That's one I heard of.
And he said that he had, that they had I'm not, it's not me, something like, I think it was the Indo-Trek or something that come loose as they were going across one. I don't know the right terminology. But what they said on what we were told was that the speed bumps slowed them. I'm talking about now, not before. I wasn't on board. That the speed bumps slowed them a percent. They never said how much or anything of that nature. But he did say that Old Huntington one, I guess, and I see, I have kids. I like them in my neighborhood. That's but I mean, everybody's got their own neighborhood. But now, to me personally, Old Huntington is not a neighborhood street. It's a county road almost, looks like. It's just in the city limits. But y'all the ones gonna have to vote.
And then I'll add that, Chip, too, we don't technically have any emergency routes in the city of Lexington, so there's none qualified. Chief, you correct me if I'm wrong on that.
With the policy,
That was brought out, and then Mr. Shane Beecham with EMS was the one here last meeting. As neutral as one could possibly be, I think anybody heard that, so he wasn't for them or against them, so this time just to clarify, I'm not trying to take any sides whatsoever.
I've got a question on, Mr. Douglas brought up, it was 60, whatever also any other neighborhoods that might be affected in that area. I guess I'm looking for some,
They call it a feeder street, Roger, is that
yes,
what it
yeah,
is?
so I guess I'm looking for an understanding, is it just the people on the street that have to have 60-something, or is it the other ones included? Like on Old Huntington, you have Blackberry, I'm talking about Old Huntington, Blackberry and Wildwood and Beasley, are we including those in the 67%, or no, we just have to have the ones on Old Huntington, which would not be very many people at all?
I would ask for Public Works clarification on that. They know more about these feeders. What
Well, I'm
do they
trying
call
to hear it, it's not jumping out at me, but I don't know that it addresses it either way, though, it does say the street.
Right.
So it doesn't say anything about the feeder streets.
I read it as the street, but I don't know.
If that's the case, Old Huntington would have how many residents?
Not many.
Not many.
And, you know, we have a policy, it looks like there, most of the people on Old Huntington seem to not want them, it shouldn't be any problem to get that policy. Go by policy, get the signatures, and then come back to the board. You're talking about the speed bumps and whether it's a safety for the kids or safety for somebody that's sick. Speed bumps are gonna be a problem for somebody that's having an emergency or an illness, no matter where they are. Doesn't matter whether it's in a neighborhood over here off Natchez Straits Drive, or whether it's, you know, Eastern Shore. So, you know, we're gonna pull them up for that reason, we have to pull all of them up. We've got a policy, I think you go with that policy, and unless the policy's changed. You know, you've got an avenue to speak, and, that's just kind of where I see it.
So can I clarify on those applications?
Yes.
Okay, so you've had some picked up to take them up, but they have not been completed in our records. And as far as putting any new speed bumps down, we haven't had any pick any up for Eastern Shores or.
Can you address the question I asked about the other?
The way I read it, it says, selection of installation, a formal request, and then it says, from a resident via a completed application requiring 2/3, 67% of the property owners of the street and or streets being requested. So, the way I understand that, if you're on Old Huntington, you live on Old Huntington and you want it up, you get the application to take it up, and it has to be 67%. So,
Of the residents on
on the street. But it says property owner, so I'm taking it to one more, because it sounds like we're gonna have this. If there's a property owner, if the husband and wife are joint owners of the property, would they get 2 votes, or does that household get 1 vote? And I know I'm not asking for that answer, but that's something we need to get clarification, because my wife and I both have ownership rights to our house, you know,
Y'all
so.
may vote different.
No, I'm with you, I'm saying, so
Nancy
the
had
question
that.
is, you know, to get 67% though, if you had to double, if each household had 2 people in it, you'd have to say times 2 for the number of houses. And again, I'm trying not to get in the weeds, but that's a valid point, because I heard you say property owners is what I heard, not household.
So we are saying.
And I'm not trying to complicate, but that, you said the point though, because.
Well, I see
That
that.
was the question I was asking a while ago.
So I think before we accept any kind of petition, we need to get clarification of that.
The only other,
So what you're saying though is the citizen, like if I was in and doing check up on all things, I go with the application. And then I have to go do it and bring it back.
yeah, you have to hire jobs always.
We're responsible for the 67%.
Or just
Or whoever.
you, and y'all want it back, and you're saying, oh,
I'm saying check in.
cooler, or is what you're saying.
I mean, that's the part that we're gonna,
That's
I'm
what
not
we need
making
clear.
a
It's not
ruling.
like we have to vote.
I'm sure not making a ruling.
I'm gonna ask.
Yes, sir.
I would just go by the resident, the house. That is logical, but one house, one vote. I agree.
Well, I thought it was one house, one vote.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, stop right here. Got 20 people talking at one time. We can't clarify what's being said, we have this many people talking. Let's let one person talk at a time.
name, we're talking about one person, if it's in 10, we're talking about 10.
But that means the property ownership is what he's.
Yes.
Okay. So what we're saying is that it's owners, it's two people on it, you get 2 votes, it's one person on it, you get 1 vote. So if you don't like your husband or wife, you just have to mark them off.
But your percentage would be calculated differently, because then you have to consider the number of owners versus households. to get what-
But it says owner of property.
It says in here also, can't request to be put back down for a period of 3 years, I think, once they're taken up. You know, if we're gonna take some up, I wanna know what we were gonna do to deter speed in the future. I wanna know the whole plan rather than just, let's take them up and worry about how we're gonna slow traffic down. If I was gonna vote to do one or the other, I want the whole plan. And what it was gonna cost.
Can I say something? We have probably one of the oldest members out of Eastern Shores, and we raised our kids, and we didn't have speed bumps. We just taught our kids, you don't get in the street and play.
What Mr. Rogers said, I love that. What Mr. Rogers said, I love it, Dad, but I went to school with Tiffany. It was different. Remember, Mr. Wilson followed me home when I was speeding through the neighborhood and took care of it. We can't do that anymore. And as far as common sense, to me, as a business owner, 1 house, 1 vote. Now, y'all can change that, because y'all are the board. But common sense says residents, 1 house. Not just, I mean, what if there's 5 people's name on that deed? What if there's 10? What if 5 people wanna go real quick and put about 10 names on that deed, up that number? I mean, seriously, the common sense way is 1 vote per house, you know? And I agree, you know, there's probably neither side. It's sad still again that we're arguing about what we're arguing about. But there again, things are different and, you know, just ain't like it used to be. So what do we have? Speak.
I agree our speed's a little fast sometimes, but you wanna go Natural Chase Drive when the factory turns out, if you wanna see speed. Why is there speed bumps there? They're crossing 60, 70 mile an hour down Natural Chase Drive. Nobody even mentions speed bump there. Kids that play in the yard beside there, where's those speed bumps?
State route's not gonna take liability for putting them on the green.
Speed's everywhere, not just our neighborhood.
Well, you know, Floyd, I grew up on Weaver Street, and at the end of Weaver Street was the metal plant.
Oh, yes.
And every day at 3:30 till about 10 till 4,
So why should I go to speed in the street?
right, you know what our rule was, and my daddy did play. He said, if I catch you in the front yard from 3:30 to 3:45,
Nothing to read.
you fix to get a whipping. So y'all can play, but you get out there in the backyard, don't you be in the front from 3:45 to 3:30.
There's a lot of streets faster in Lexington than Eastern Shore.
That's right. Their issue is that it's not at one specific time. You know, probably worse in the morning when kids being dropped off at school, people coming out of work, but it's not a 15-minute window like what I had on Weaver Street.
I believe the issue we need to resolve is the policy we need to be sure before we decide any kind of road that we clean the policy up and see what the will of the board is on the policy. I believe we voted on that once before. It had been voted on, it's also been changed, and then we got around to it again. And we made it with this policy that I have to see what you're doing. I believe we've had a good meeting. Everybody's spoke their mind, what they believe needs to be. I do believe that the board does, and all intention and purposes is to take consideration for everybody involved, the kids, the people driving, and what was fair and what should be done. I know that would be utmost important, especially with the chief. I know with him enforcing our law, I know that's how important it is to him. And that's where the board here also has that same philosophy that we want to do what's right for our citizens, and that we crack down on these speeders and make our community safe for all our kids and all the people who live here. Those are the things that's most important to this board and to everybody in this room that should be. Now, be whether you're for or against speed bumps, we need to review this policy, be sure it is, so we don't have some questionable parts of it, that who votes, who don't vote, how many is, and where it's at, and everything about where
while you're defining the terms, what do you have when you have a house sitting on the corner? Okay. Tim Middleton, 513 Lakeshore Drive. What do you have when you have a house in the corner with a driveway coming off on the other side? You need to count those people or not? And that's just kind of getting in the weeds, but you still need to understand that as part of your count.
Your address off, where your driveway is, or your address off the other?
It doesn't affect me, but I know like houses on Old Huntington, it does.
I would think it would be the address, but that's the only thing.
Well, I think that's another question we got to address. We don't have the answer for it right now. Thank you.
I didn't know this was a rebuttal meeting, but, as everybody else did, I'll go ahead and say too, I think that we all agree on the same thing, and there's speeding in our neighborhood, and that's a problem. I don't begrudge anybody for wanting them down, and I hope they don't feel the same way about me for not wanting them down. I didn't get a vote to put them down. There wasn't 67% of the people in that neighborhood voted to put them down. Well, there's not anybody in the neighborhood voted to put them down. It was simply the people that were on this commission that voted to put them down. And so it was asked a few years ago when Roger was police chief, what are we gonna do about traffic? All this stuff came up. Roger said, clear as day. Let me write the tickets, leave them alone. We'll stop the traffic from being filled. I think chief would probably say the same thing. You know, you don't get it. You get a few tickets. I got one over, going through Beasley, and, you know, next time I come through there, I was pretty slow.
To that point, talking about using radar and giving everyone tickets, we need to ask Chief if he has resources to park somebody there 24 hours a day somewhere on that street. I think he's already short-staffed. It was also brought up at the last one about having somebody stationed there, and the answer was no, because it doesn't.
Well, we haven't tried the speed limit signs that flash actually. So there's an alternative that, you know, I don't see anybody else can look at it right here, but that is one.
One more thing, and I promise. The flashing light things will be okay for a very, very short time, because once everyone that likes to speed realizes they're not getting a ticket in the mail, they're gonna wave when they go by and fly, like they did before speed limits.
And we have a lot of people in our neighborhood, or older people, and they would have been here tonight, but they don't like to drive after dark. And there are a lot of ones that just hate these bumps that they have to go over, so anyway, kind of consider that. But
Are y'all through with the petition you picked up? Are y'all still securing signatures, or where are y'all at with that?
yeah, I've got, like I said, I've got 141 names that wants to get rid of them. And Bob and I went out and counted houses today, 157, so I've got over the 67%.
For which street though?
So I've got them right here if you want them.
What street's that on?
More than Eastern
Shores.
Which street?
Which street?
Is that many on Eastern Shore?
I've got Lakeshore Drive, I've got Harbor Drive, I've got Crestwood, I've got Scenic Circle, I've got, Eastern Shores. I've got a lot of people on Eastern Shores.
Crestwood and
So
Scenic
would you
don't have
like to
speed
look
bumps.
at them?
I was just saying, are y'all completed with it, are you still
Yeah,
secured?
I'm completed, yeah.
Well, I think it's supposed to go back to Christie and Casey.
Yeah.
It was my understanding that we wasn't real sure whose signature is even counted right now.
Well, we're gonna have to have a meeting before we set this out, because we got to do some verification, and we'll take that up at the next board meeting. It's 2 weeks from tonight, we're gonna take it up and we'll get clarification on what, if this policy, what needs to be changed, and then we'll decide about the petitions. Yes, sir.
Did I hear right that the petition had to be from somebody who lived on the street?
That's what
So, I can't go and petition Old Huntington to get rid of their speed bumps. I don't live there. I can't go petition Beasley So if we've got petitions with 8,000 names on them from all the streets all over town, how are we deciphering who?
I'm gonna make one clarification, okay?
Okay.
Anybody in this town can get a petition, okay? Anybody.
Okay.
Now, the names regarding what's on that have to come off of that street. So
Right.
anybody is entitled to pick up a petition regardless of where they live, as long as they live inside the city limits.
What I'm saying is I cannot vote to remove speed bumps on someone else's street. Is that what you're telling me?
That's
Is
right.
that's correct? Okay.
That's what we were just talking about.
Only vote on your own street.
There you go. Thank you. Right.
To answer your question, I think that, that's what we were saying, we need to figure out at the next board meeting. That's what the mayor was just addressing, is the policy's got to be clarified. Because like right now, it says owners, so we discussed, does that mean you and your wife, you both on the deed, or did one vote for that house?
Okay, well,
And
some of
etc.
them, I've got the husband and the wife. So, but they're the homeowners, I made sure of that.
Well, we need, Nancy, we need to clarify what's on that. I know that on our policies that we've had a few changes over the years, but some of them were done in haste. And then as we've gone forward, we look back and think we should have made some corrections on some of them. And I think that's what we're gonna do, and look at this policy and have an open discussion on the board and vote on it. Next 2 weeks from tonight, we'll have a regular board meeting, that's when we're gonna discuss. And we're not voting to remove anything, we're gonna clarify the policy, so we can look at the petitions and see who qualifies and who does not qualify. That's what we're gonna do. Everybody okay with that? Good? Anybody else got a comment? Anybody else got a comment?
If you review the petition and it does happen that you vote into removing the speed bumps, are there gonna be any measures to deal with the speed? Or we're just gonna cut that out?
Enough signatures, or will there be additional measures?
To emphasize Roger's point, Roger said, what's the plan if we take them up? She emphasized.
Because that's the main concern here. Because we know that the Capitol Road through the Beasley not gonna be closed, that's been discussed. Having somebody patrolling the street, not gonna fix it, because that's been discussed, and the traffic study shows that. Over 500 violations in a week. And down to 85 in a couple of months. Just remind me.
Thank you.